Hi, welcome to the studio at Wardley. As people get older, they often lose the ability or forget the ability to get up and down off the floor efficiently. So in this week's Feldenkrais lesson, we're going to be looking at a lesson that explores how you might organise your movement to do that more efficiently. Welcome to Feldenkrais Moments with me, Stewart Hamblin. If you're quite young, getting up and down off the floor probably doesn't appear to present any problems at all. But as people get older, they often lose the ability to get up and down off the floor in an efficient manner, and not just off the floor, getting out of bed, for example, becomes difficult for them. And so in this week's Feldenkrais lesson, we're going to be looking at one lesson that can help you to organise your movement so that you can do it in a much more effortless way. So please begin by lying down on your mat and have the legs long to begin with. If you'd like to take a moment just to scan your contact into the floor, please do so. But otherwise, please begin by interlacing your hands behind the back of the head. So the first movement is just a small movement of using your hands just to lift your head minimally off the floor, and then take your head a little bit to one side and then the other. So you just take it to the one side, bring it back to the middle. When you come back to the middle, rest the head back down, and then lift the head, and then take it a little bit to the other side, and then come back to the middle and put it down. Now, as I'm lying here, I'm not using a pillow behind my head, but some people may need a bit of cushioning or a pad to support them. So if you're one of those people, then please do take some support. But otherwise, interlace the hands again behind the head, and then again just move the head cradled in the hands to one side, come back to the middle, put it down, and then lift it and take it to the other side and bring it back to the middle and put it down. And do this movement a number of times, and do it slowly. So you're just lifting the head, taking it to one side and coming back, resting the head fully down, and then take it to the other side and bring it back and put it down. So it's a good idea as you begin any Feldenkrais lesson is just to check that you're not holding the breath when you're doing these movements. So and discover, is it easier to breathe out as you move the head to one side and in as you come back to the middle? Or maybe you find it easier to breathe in as you take the head to the side and breathing out as you come back to the middle. Personally, I find it easier to breathe out as I move the head to the side and into the middle, because the out breath helps me to soften the ribs. And as you explore this movement along with me, you'll feel that because the head is cradled in the hands, really the movement of moving the head to one side and then to the other it's a movement that's taking place in your trunk, in your ribs. So rather than the neck muscles doing the movement, you're really using your trunk, your core, to move the head to one side and then back. So you don't need to do too many of these movements, and if necessary, just rest whenever you like, once you've explored it a few times. But then if you're ready to continue, please again interlace the hands behind the head, and this time as you do the movement, lift the head, and as you take it to the side, have the thought that you're sweeping the elbow down to the side, and then you come back, and then you bring the head back to centre and rest. So you lift the head, you take it to the side. Now I'm going to the left, so I think of my left elbow sweeping down to the left pocket, coming back, and then back to centre. So again, I'll just show that. You lift the head, you take the head to the one side. I'm going to my right now, so I think of sweeping my right elbow towards my right pocket, come back, rest the head, and then to the other side, come back and rest the head. So you can perhaps feel, or certainly I feel, it may be different for you, that as I do this movement, the thought of sweeping the elbow down but close to the floor towards my one pocket and then to the other helps me to get more of a side bending action in the trunk. As you do these movements, just see if you can scan yourself, so you're paying attention to the breath, but also just scanning yourself for any unnecessary tension that may be creeping in. So quite commonly what happens is people tense the jaw, so keep the jaw nice and soft if you can as you do this movement. Now, once you've explored that a few times, please again just rest for a moment. And as I mentioned in previous recordings, I'm keeping the rest relatively short just to keep the flow of the video moving. But if you need longer rest, then please don't hesitate to take them. So once you have rested, then bring your left arm out to the side. And then bring your right hand behind the back of the head and see if you can turn the head to look towards your left. So you'll see that my right hand is kind of making contact with my left ear, and the head is stayed turning to the left. Now, this left arm, it's important that you explore a few places of where it should be. What the movement that we're going to be doing is lifting the head with the assistance of the right hand and then taking the head over to the left and then bringing it back and resting. So you keep the head turned to the left, you lift the head and keeping it low to the floor, that's really important. See if you can move the head over to the left and then come back. The idea of this movement is that eventually you'll be able to lift the head to come up onto this left elbow. So if the arm is out to the side and straight, completely out to the side at shoulder height, it's not really going to happen. You'll certainly roll over the left shoulder, but you won't be able to get up onto the elbow. Equally, if the arm is too close to the side and straight, it won't work. The locked elbow will get in the way. So you'll need to try and find a few places that will work for you. So normally it's about between shoulder height and completely down by the side, and you want to try and make sure that the elbow is bent. That's really important. And then try again lifting the head and then bringing it back down. And you just do what you can comfortably do, and so that each movement is really a question of can you do this movement without unnecessary effort? Can you do the movement without holding the breath? And just exploring. The idea here is that you want to try and come up onto the elbow. Now, what's happening here that's stopping me going further are my legs. See, if I keep my legs absolutely rigid, it's the legs that's keeping me sort of towards my back, and I'm trying to come up onto my side. So pause a minute, just rest the arms down by your side, and again, if you need a longer rest, then please do so. But try practicing this movement. So with my left leg, I just think of turning the leg out a little bit so that the little toe side of the foot comes closer to the floor. Hopefully you can see that. And then as I do that, what that does, it causes the leg to turn out, is I just think of softening the back of the knee to slide the foot up towards me a little bit and then slide the leg away. So you turn the leg out to bring the little toe side of the foot closer to the floor, and then you begin to slide the leg towards you. And if you notice, I'm really keeping my knee hanging out to the side, and then straightening the leg away. So it's not this, bringing the knee up to standing in that way. You just allow the leg to turn out. I think of the back of the knee just being very soft to slide the foot up towards me and then away. It can be quite a challenge to let the knee hang out, particularly if you're used to doing things through your inner thigh muscles, your adductor muscles. So just take a moment. It's very nice. I think it's a very nice movement to do, of just sliding the leg up towards you and away. You get a nice opening in the hip joint to do that, and then slide it away. And then pause, and then once more bring the left arm out to the side, bring the right hand behind the back of the head. And this time, as you lift the head, keeping it low, see if you can allow the knee to turn out and slide towards you a little bit, and then you come back. So you keep the head turned to the left, you lift the head, and you think of taking the head over to the left as low as possible, and you allow the leg to slide out so that you begin to come up onto the left forearm. Now when I go back, it's important to try and keep the head as low as possible so that you begin to roll back onto the back rather than falling. So once more, I keep my head turned to the left. I think of lifting the head with the right hand. I try and keep the head as low as possible to the arm. And then there comes a certain moment when my head is kind of over the elbow, that it becomes easier to then move. I think of my head moving towards the hand, over the hand, and then and you'll notice how my legs have turned to the side to help with this movement, and then to go back onto my back. I think of keeping my head very low, so that I'm transferring my weight, the weight of my head, over the support of my upper arm. Now it's over the shoulder, and then I can begin to roll back onto the back. So once more, I lift my head, keeping it turned to the left, and I think of keeping everything low, so I'm rolling, and then there comes a certain point where I can begin to press down into the forearm and the elbow a little bit, and then I can come back keeping my head low, and then back onto the mat. So quite commonly what can happen is that because people think it's about lifting, it becomes a struggle to try and get up. And if you've got the abdominal strength, of course you'll manage to get up, but by keeping the head low, head turned, and thinking of rolling, so here I'm rolling into the mat, my ribs on the left hand side, and I keep this idea of rolling, then I can come up onto the elbow. But you'll notice how my legs, they've turned in, or turned out I should say rather, to the left, to help with this movement. If you keep the legs rigidly locked back, it won't be as effective. So, and then to come back again, keep your head very low as you come back onto the back, and then rest. So I'll show that to the other side. This time I'll turn my head to my right. Find the place where the right arm is going to most support you, and again, don't be surprised if you need to have a few goes at this just to find the right place. Certainly if the arm's at shoulder height, I can tell you it won't work as effectively. Equally, if the arm is too close to the side, so find a place that's midway between those 2 points, and then make sure the elbow is bent. Turn the head to the right, have the left hand behind the head, and then think of the legs being just loose and free, so that they're available to help with this movement. So I turn my head to the right, keep the head low, begin to lift my head just minimally, and then I think of rolling rather than lifting over, so I can come up onto the elbow, and then I keep the head low. I begin to transfer my weight onto the upper arm, and now the shoulder to come onto my back. Now, it's worthwhile pausing the recording if necessary, just to give yourself plenty of opportunity to practice this, because a lot of this is about timing of the legs, timing of the lift. So don't be in any hurry to succeed. Really sort of experiment if you can to find this sense of rolling. See how my legs begin to organise, and then there comes a moment where I can transfer my head over the forearm, and then to come back I keep low, 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 and then come back onto my back. And then please take a rest. Once you've rested, please bring your right arm up towards the ceiling, just up towards the ceiling, and check that so I've got my arm long, but I'm trying to keep the arm long but soft, so I'm not sort of hardening through the wrist or the hand. Hopefully you'll be able to see something of the difference there. And then once more have your left arm out to the side, being somewhere between shoulder height and down by your side, and the elbow slightly bent, so that the arm is available for you to use to help come up onto your side. So now, with the right arm, I begin to think of reaching the right arm over to the left. Again, you can try just reaching a few times. Check that you're not pulling yourself with the forearm muscles or the hand muscles. Try and keep it as soft as possible, so that the movement of the arm forward and back is coming from the shoulder. You can perhaps see how my shoulder blade or my shoulder is coming a little bit away from the floor. I'm thinking of the chest softening, and again I reach over, reaching towards the camera, keeping my head low to come up, and then to go back again. Now keep the head as low as you can, so once more you think of transferring your weight rather than falling onto the back. So again, I reach over to the right, and I'm thinking of that coming from the shoulder, the ribs and the chest folding, so that I'm beginning to transfer my weight into the left hand side of my chest and ribs. And then I keep reaching, keeping the head low. See how it's low to the upper arm, it's turned, and then I keep reaching, the elbow bends, and now my weight effectively has transferred in over the forearm. And then to go back, I still have this sense of reaching towards the camera, so again I slowly transfer my weight to the upper arm, to the shoulder, and then again I begin to roll rather than fall onto my back. You'll notice again that it's crucial that you explore the timing through the legs. You see, if I try to do this and keep my legs, keep my heels pressed back, it really puts a brake on the movement. Whereas if I can let the legs turn towards the left too, it becomes easier to transfer the weight. And then I keep my head low. It's really important to keep the head low as you come onto the back. Right. So once more, let's try that, and then see if you can again keep the breath easy, so you're not holding the breath, and that the jaw stays nice and soft in particular. So I begin to reach. Now, already as I'm reaching, if you notice my legs, there I'm thinking of keeping the left leg turns out, the back of the knee stays soft, and in fact my right leg also begins to turn to the left too. Can you see that? I'm sort of turning on the heel. I think of that leg being soft too. As I reach over, keeping my head low, there's a certain moment, a sort of a pivot point, when the elbow bends, the weight transfers over to the forearm, and you'll see how the left leg has come to the floor on its outside, and the right knee has also begun to present to the floor. And then to come back, I think of my head keeping very low to come back onto the upper arm, and then back onto the back. Let's try that to the other side. So this time it'll be my right arm out to the side. Again, you may need to experiment for the right place. Have the left arm up towards the ceiling, and now I begin to move my left arm over to the right. And you'll perhaps see from this view what I meant about the shoulder, that my shoulder is coming away, and my ribs on the left hand side are beginning to come away from the floor, and I'm transferring my weight, I'm rolling my weight sequentially into the right hand side of the chest, and then I think of reaching, keeping my head low, turn to the right. Notice how my legs have begun to organise, and I keep reaching to transfer my weight now onto the right forearm. Sorry to turn my back to you. And now to come back, keep my head low, low, low. I transfer, roll the weight into the right upper arm, and then I can roll back onto the back. And again, so reach over with the left arm, chest softens. That's why it's important not to hold the breath, so the ribs can soften, and I can feel how the weight is now rolling into the right hand side of the ribs. My legs are beginning to organise so that I can keep reaching through the arm, keeping my head low to transfer the weight onto my forearm. Notice how the legs have begun to present to the floor, and then I come back, and come back. Now, when I taught this lesson in class a couple of weeks ago, one thing that tended to happen is when I asked people to think about the legs, is what happened is they suddenly wanted to move the legs together. together, and then the knees were coming on top of each other. But that's not what's really needed for this movement. If we just look at the legs again, see how keeping the arms by my side, the left leg turns out, so keeping that knee long, and then the other leg begins to pivot on the heel to come over, but I'm not thinking of bringing the knees together at all, and then I think of sliding them away. And again, so there's a difference in terms of the timing of the two legs. You see the left leg, if I wanted to come over onto the left, presents first, and it's the right leg is following it, so that as that right knee presents to the floor, can you see it's not on the left leg, but it's going to present to the floor just sort of below the left heel, and then I go away. Hope you can see that, I'm not too close to the camera. Maybe I've travelled. So the left leg, I think of just turning out, sliding the leg towards me, the foot towards me, and then the other leg will begin to follow, so that the right knee begins to present the inner knee to the floor too, and then come back. So I'll just show that to the other side, just concentrating on the leg. So I turn my right leg out, I think of softening that knee, and then the other leg begins to turn in, the left leg now, I roll on the heel so that knee slides up. If I wanted to come onto my side, that knee would present, the left knee would present to the floor just the inside of the other foot. So have a rest on the back again, and then please return to having the left arm by your side. Once more bring the right arm up towards the ceiling, and see again if you can reach over to the left, keeping the head low, allowing the legs to organise, keep reaching, think of rolling. And there comes this moment when I can come up onto the forearm. Notice how the left knee, the outside of the left knee has come to the floor, the inside of the other leg has found, other knee rather, has found the floor. And then if I wanted to keep reaching, I could keep reaching and present up onto my hand. And then to come back, don't fall back, but think of keeping the head low, towards the hand. I think of travelling the head along the arm, and then the arm and the upper arm, and then I come all the way onto my back. I'll just show that again slightly further away from the camera so you can see what happens with the hands. So once more, my right arm is up towards the ceiling. I begin to reach over to my left, keep my head low, it begins to lift, but I keep it low, turned to the left. Make sure this elbow is bent. Now the knees begin to present to the floor. As I roll, transfer now my weight, my head, you can see there's a sort of a laser pointer on my nose. It would be going along the arm now. The head is travelling along the line of the arm, and then I can keep reaching. So my laser pointer would be coming here, so that I can then transfer the weight into the hand. And then to come back, again, you think of keeping the head low. So I come low, and then you can see my forearm can come back down. I travel along. the upper arm, and then come back onto all the way onto my back. Again, I'll just show that. So again, you reach over, keep the head low, the knees present, I keep on going, and then I present onto my wrist, my hand rather, and then to come back, I come low, think of the head going, now here you see my head is now, it's kind of more over my knee, it's lined up with my knee. So I think of my head coming down low, 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 and then it sort of skims along the arm, onto the upper arm, shoulder, and then onto the back. Please take a rest. You can see how this lesson is really very much about organising yourself so that you are transferring weight as opposed to falling back. And once you get the idea about this transference of weight rather than lifting, you could practically do this all day long without fatiguing, because it's about organisation of yourself and organisation of your movement. So again, I keep my head low, I come back, and then I come back all the way onto my back. I'll just show you that to the other side, just so you can see what happens with the to the back and to the legs from another view. So have my right arm out to the side, again just checking the elbow is bent, and then have the left arm for me up towards the ceiling. Now I begin to reach the arm over, keeping again if possible the arm long but soft, this left arm, and then I begin to reach over, so my head turns, I begin to peel the left hand side of the chest off the mat. Notice how my legs begin to organise so that my head eventually lifts, it's turned to the right, I keep reaching, my legs begin to present to the floor, my knees rather, and then I can keep going, so I come onto the hand. And then to go back, I think of my head coming low, and then it goes along the arm, the support of the arm, to the upper arm, and then onto the back. Take a rest if necessary. I keep travelling a bit, so I'm hoping everything is in view of the camera. Now, once you've explored that to one side and then to the other, you can begin to practice the movement going from one side straight to the other. So, for example, you have both arms up towards the ceiling. Again, not hardening through the wrists or the hands, keeping the arms long but soft. And now I could think of going to my left, so I reach over with my left arm in the direction of the camera, with my right arm in the direction of the camera. My left arm begins to present to the floor, the upper arm, my knees begin to turn, and if I keep reaching, I can come up, and then up onto my hand, and then I can think of my head going low, 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 so the elbow will bend, and then I begin to move the head along the arm into the upper arm, onto the back. And then I can do that to the other side, so again I begin to reach now with the left arm, and come up onto the hand, and then I can go back, keeping my head low. You'll notice there I sort of went to move my head this way, but what I really need to do is keep the head low, so again I'm keeping low to the ground, so I'm rolling, and then I can keep going to the other side to come up onto my hand, and then I can go back, just going from one side to the other. Good. It's nice once you get this idea about transference of weight. It's such a nice movement to do actually. It's such a nice feeling to feel how really this doesn't have to be a lot of work. The more you can think of softening, organisation and transference of weight, then the easier the movement will become. Losing my sock. So please take a rest. Now, one way of progressing this lesson is that Feldenkrais taught is you can then begin to explore coming up onto your knees from this movement. So keep the left arm down by the side, have the right arm towards the ceiling initially, and then I begin again to reach over to my left towards the camera. Again, I think of the reaching, softening, rolling into the floor. The legs begin to organise, and then if I wanted to, when I get to here, I could, by keeping reaching, I could come up onto my knees, and then to come back, I bring my left hand close to the left knee, present the palm down, and then I can begin to bring the pelvis back to the floor, keep my head low, and then I begin to come back onto my back in the way that we've been looking at. So again, right arm up towards the ceiling. I'll move over to make sure you can see. Begin to reach over with the right arm towards the left. Allow my legs to organise for the movement. I keep reaching, keeping my head low as possible. Keep reaching to come up onto my hand, and then if I wanted to, I could begin to come up onto my knees, and then I can make sure as I come back, where you place the hand is quite crucial. It has to be close to the knee. Notice how my fingers are turned. So as my fingers come down, again I'm transferring the weight from the pads of my fingers into my palm, and then my pelvis comes down, my forearm, and keep the head low to come onto my back. I'll just show that to the other side as well. So left arm for me up towards the ceiling, have my right arm available for me for support. I begin to reach over to my right. The head will lift, the legs begin to organise for the movement. The wall's in the way, but I keep reaching, transferring my weight onto the hand. I can keep going to come up onto my knees, and then to come back, I bring the hand close to the knee, then that you can peel back into the palm. My pelvis comes back down, I keep my head low, and then again I transfer the weight onto my back. Again, please rest if you need to. There's actually a lot of information in this lesson to digest and to practice. So again, I just want to stress, if you need to take more time, please do pause the recording to give yourself that time. The lesson that Feldenkrais originally taught, though, does progress, and I'll just show you some of those further variations. But if you've already learnt to come up onto your side like this, that's into a side sitting position. That's a lot of learning, and if you need to pause the lesson there, or stop the lesson there, that's absolutely fine. But I'll just show you some of the other variations that he taught. One of them was to have the legs bent up over the chest, so a bit like a baby really, and in bringing the legs up to the chest, over the chest rather, don't turn this into a Pilates exercise where your quadriceps are engaged and your the front of your shin muscles are engaged too. Just let the lower legs dangle, but have the knees a little bit apart. And then bring your right hand up towards the right arm up towards the ceiling, and then see if you can, from this position, begin to take the legs and the arm over to the right, and then come back. Okay, just keep it small to begin with, just to explore the timing of this. Checking again, so I had to move my arm there because I could feel it wasn't quite in the right place. But feel how by thinking of taking the legs over to the left, rolling over onto the more towards the left hand side, keep my head low, I can begin to come up again into that same side sitting position, and then to come back. Keep the head low, low. So think of softening, head low, to come onto my back again, and the knees over my chest. So again, if you're perhaps not used to having the legs in this position, it's easy to fall into the habit of having the legs move together. So you want to let them be separate. So again, right arm up towards the ceiling, begin to reach over, my legs begin to tilt so I can feel the weight transferring again into my left hand side, and I still think of reaching with the arm, the head will lift, come back, and again, so you're just looking so that again, it's not a lift, it's a roll or a transference of weight. The breath is free to transfer the weight onto the arm and then into the hand. And then come back, keeping the head low. It sweeps round in an arc over the arm to come onto the back. I'll show that to the other side. So have the right arm down by your side, left arm up towards the ceiling. I begin to take the legs to my right, I turn the head, I reach with the left hand, and I think of reaching, to come up, and then I keep my head low, to come in, transfer the weight onto my back. Okay. To come up into a side sitting position, come back, keeping the head low to transfer the weight onto the back. It's actually a very nice movement to do, and you can begin to see. If you know something of Feldenkrais's history and his biography, you can begin to see the influences of his judo or jiu-jitsu training. Feldenkrais was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He learnt and studied with Japanese masters in Paris. And also you can see, of course, his interest in infant development and how we learn as infants how to roll to the side and get from our back onto the side and eventually up onto the knees, all fours, and into standing. You can see the relationship of this lesson to those interests. Once you've had a rest, and if you want to try these other variations, I'll just show you a few of them. With this this movement that we've just been looking at, you can begin it with both arms up towards the ceiling. Again, legs over the chest, but it's soft, so not a Pilates exercise. The arms long and again soft. And you can begin to explore from having both arms up towards the ceiling, taking this movement to, for me, the left. So again, I think of taking the legs to the left, turning the head to the left. My left arm is going to come down, so it's available to support me. Keep reaching with the right arm, to come up. And then I come back and go all the way on to the other side. So I come back, over onto the one side, and then you can keep going. So again, all the time you're rolling, rolling, rolling from one side to the other. Always trying to make sure it's not a fall or anything to cause you to hold the breath. And it's always interesting with Feldenkrais lessons to show that if you are doing it with as little effort as possible, that at any stage you could choose to reverse the movement. So I'm just going to the one side, ready to do the movement, and then to the other side. I think of coming up, but I've changed my mind, so I want to come back. Or maybe I do want to come up. Come up. So you play with this ability that you could reverse the movement at any stage if you wanted to. So it's never a fall, it's always something that you can control. It's quite fun to do, just playing with this sense of reversibility, which was a big feature of Moshe's work. How you could, at any moment, change the direction without stiffening or holding the breath. Now pause, and I'll just show a few more variations here. So in the one of the lessons that Feldenkrais originally taught, again he taught this variation where you start in the same way with the legs up and the arms up towards the ceiling, and then from here I would go to my left all the way up to kneeling, the hands coming up, and I go back and up, and you'll notice that this time my head isn't going down, so I'm keeping my head up and I'm rolling up into a kneeling position, but keeping my head up. But if that's too difficult, leave it out, because it really isn't important. You see, from side to side. Please take a rest. Good. Now, again, I just want to show one more thing, which I hope you'll find helpful, because my interest really with the people I work for is trying to help them to learn functional movement, which can really be useful for them to make sure they live their lives independently. So from here, we'll go back to the sort of the original lying down position. Have your right arm up towards the ceiling, and then begin to reach over to my left, it is, towards the camera, to once more again come up onto your forearm, and then onto your hand. And then from here, rather than trying to come up straight on the knees, of course you can actually bring this hand, the other hand, down onto the floor. And then from here you've got the option of then lifting your pelvis to come onto the knees, and then come back, and then keep the head low, come back onto the back. So again, I'll just show that again. So from here, think of turning to the left, keeping my head low, reach with my right hand up and over, keeping the head low, the legs begin to organise, and then this hand, rather than constantly reaching my right hand, of course it can find the floor to give me some support. And then from here I can bring my chest up, my pelvis up to come onto my knees. And then of course once you're on your knees, then you've got the option of bringing that foot forward so that you can come up away from the floor in another way. So to come back, I bring my hands down, I let that leg go back, bring the pelvis down, keep my head low, and then all the way onto the back. I'll just show that from the other side. So I have my right arm out to the side, begin to reach with my left arm over, begin to turn and roll, coming up onto my hand, and then my left hand can come onto the floor. And then from this side sitting position, I've got the option of bringing the pelvis up, and to come up, I can bring the leg forward to come up into a kneeling position. And then if necessary, I can go up to standing, either by supporting myself on the leg and coming up, and come back down, running out of space here, bring the hands down, the leg back, the pelvis back, the head back, and then I can come back onto my back. Oops. That's probably more than enough to think about. So take a few moments to rest longer if you need to. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. There's a lot of stuff to think about in this lesson, but it's a great lesson to practice because it has a lot of themes in it, obviously. How to organise your movement, how to organise that movement along with the breath, to experience this sense of transference of weight as opposed to a sort of muscular lift. But it's a lesson that I think is well worth practicing. So it doesn't matter if you didn't get through the whole of the lesson. I wouldn't expect it, particularly if it's the first time that you've encountered it, but would certainly encourage you, if you have the time, to begin to practice particularly some of the earlier steps, because once you get this sense of transference of weight and that sense of effortless in the movement, it's really very rewarding indeed. If you like the lesson, please press the like button. If you haven't already subscribed to my Feldenkrais Moments channel, please hit the subscribe button. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the section below. Thank you very much.